to another episode of Mood for Feud. I'm your host Katya, and today I am in the mood to give a follow-up episode on the Mikaela, Testa and Paul family drama. So much has developed in the last two and a half weeks, and I've been following it all. My screen time is through the roof. Before all of this drama started, I was actually getting really good at not scrolling on TikTok all the time. And then this happened, and when I tell you, I have been like combing through countless TikTok videos, getting all this evidence, screenshotting comment interactions, screenshotting a whole bunch of shit, and yeah, my screen time is crazy, but it is worth it because this has gone so much bigger than what I expected to happen following Mikaela Testa's video, and yeah, let's unpack it all. Remember, if you enjoyed the show and would like to support it, then please do leave a rating. You can leave a comment on Spotify, written review on Apple Podcasts, and you can follow the show so you never miss an episode. I'm also on Instagram at Mood for Feud, and I'm always looking to chat pop culture, so send me a message there. Okay everyone, the saga continues. Make sure if you haven't already, you check out some of the previous episodes that have covered this. I will link them in the episode notes for you so you can find them there. There is an episode about Mikaela, Testa and Atis Paul's relationship timeline. And then there's also another episode, was a Mood for News episode, I think. And we discussed the 9-minute TikTok expose that Mikaela Testa released all about Atis Paul, Anna Paul, the entire Paul family, and just some of her experiences with them. I will also link that. So yeah, this has been a huge last couple of weeks. And people are calling this the Australian Dramageddon, which it really is. Like, it truly has gotten to that level. And because this has gotten so big and because so many people are weighing in, you know, not just creators who knew Anna, but also just people who have interacted with the family or people who have done work at their house, and everyone is kind of coming forward, and you know, there's a lot to sift through. And I've really done my best to kind of try and just keep it to the topics from sources that I think are credible, more or less, or at least the info coming out from people who have actually directly interacted with the Paul family. Because when I tell you every man and their dog suddenly has a story of like meeting Anna and Atis, and this happened or that happened, or Atis gave me side eye, or like Anna looked at me weird, or which is all completely valid and probably could also be completely true. But you know, it's harder to wonder like whether that was genuine, or whether now, since all of this has come out, people are revisiting their interactions with her and maybe like remembering them slightly different. And you know, to keep this as like factual as possible when you're trying to research a drama that is literally happening on TikTok, where everybody has a platform and everybody has a voice, it can get pretty hectic, it can get pretty snowballed. And so yeah, I've tried to like limit it a little bit in terms of what we discuss, but when I tell you there's so much more out there, like, it's absolutely nuts. And it is also even more wild to experience this because of the complete scale and range of claims that we have. You know, claims starting from like, I made a delivery to Anna's house and she was rude to me, to like, Atis Paul is an abuser and Anna is like running an illegal lottery scam. Like, the range of claims or dirt that people have dug up about Anna and Atis Paul, it's like almost incomprehensible. So yeah, just bear that in mind. There is so much noise to sift through. I will still do my best to cover like as many bases as I can and give you a good enough rundown so that if you haven't had the time, which is so fair, to like go through intensely and scour the internet for these like videos that everyone's making, then this episode is for you. So where did we leave off? Mikaela had just made her 9-minute expose TikTok off the back of Anna kind of incentivizing her Instagram followers to subscribe to her OnlyFans with the chance of, you know, sending them money, which Mikaela pointed out, and I absolutely agree with her, is kind of an illegal lottery where you're getting people to sign up to a paid service with the potential to win some money back. And as I mentioned, that is all covered in the Mood for News episode, which I am linking down below. And since Mikaela's video came out, against all odds, Anna Paul actually posted a response. And the reason that this is so incredibly surprising to people is because, as we've talked about on this podcast before, the Paul family are notorious for anytime there's a bit of controversy or someone comes out with a bit of a story about them, they just go radio silent. They don't post for a couple days. They wait for everything to kind of blow over on its own, and then they just come back and start posting like nothing ever happened. And it works. People move on. But I think this did actually get a little bit bigger than any of the other accusations that have been made against them, surprisingly, because, you know, they have had some serious accusations, especially Atis Paul. It is surprising that this time people are actually prepared to listen and actually hear out what people have to say. This is kind of the first time that we've seen her in a position where she has had to make a response since hitting that like peak level of fame that she is at right now. And I have seen people call this Anna's apology. I will say she did not say any apology or utter any kind of form of feeling sorry. So I truly think this is a response. So we're going to go through Anna Paul's response. We'll also discuss some of the other girls from the OG friend group with Anna Paul and Mikaela Testa. There was a lot of other creators who kind of had a little friend group going, and a lot of those girls have also now come forward with their own stories and their own experiences with Anna and Atis Paul. And yeah, it's pretty incredible. There's been a lot of coverage of this from like people who actually know the Paul family, and we have never really seen this before, or at least it's never been in a way where it actually got a lot of traction. So Anna Paul posted her response on the 3rd of Feb. Remember, Mikaela posted her TikTok on the 29th of January. So there was like a good, you know, just under a week where people were kind of like, Anna, hello, like you can't just keep being silent. We're kind of sick of your like conveniently silent shtick. We need you to come forward and like address some of this, because she's actually accusing you of some like illegal things. And also Mikaela came forward saying that her relationship with Atis was emotionally and physically abusive. So those are like some very serious accusations, and they kind of warrant a response. So yeah, she did finally post, and it is quite interesting. She starts her response by saying, you know, if I had to come on here and address every single bad thing anyone has ever said about me, like I would be here all day, which to me that was like almost a clever way of trying to normalize the situation. She's kind of like, this isn't actually a big deal, guys. Like people come out with bullshit about me all the time. This is just another day, another story type thing. She goes on to say that the reason it's taken her so long to reply is because she was completely blindsided. You know, she says, I thought this person was my friend. 2 months ago, she was asking me to go on a girls' trip with her. She helped me when my dad was accused of being homeless, which of course was the Veruca situation, which we also talked about in the last episode. I feel like right off the bat, and this is before she has actually started talking about any of the allegations or the claims against her, the very first thing she does, I just find this interesting, is like, number one, normalize the situation. I get comments like this all the time. And number two, discredit Mikaela, right? Like make her sound unreasonable and fake. Make it sound like she potentially had an ulterior motive. So that's kind of the intro, I guess. And then she moves into the first claim from Mikaela, which was that in 2021, a plus-size fan came over and said hello to Anna Paul, and that, you know, she hugged the fan and took photos with them. And after the fan walked away, according to Mikaela, Anna turned to Atis and said, oh, that person was so gross. I didn't want to hug them because they were fat and sweaty. So that's kind of the first claim of Mikaela's that she chooses to talk about. She says, I do not call my fans fat ever. That is something I would never do. She then also says, you know me, you know this about me, which like, again, I found that quite interesting. Mikaela started her video off. It was, you don't know Anna Paul, you don't know her like I do. I do find it interesting that in Anna's video, she's going, you guys know me, you guys know this about me. And it's like, oh, the way they are trying to manipulate us, like it is crazy out here. She goes on to say that she would never, ever, ever, you know, call someone fat, but that she might have called someone sweaty before. And she kind of just goes on this honestly, it felt like it went on for like 3 minutes, where she says, you know, I meet people all the time and I hug a lot of people at meet and greets, and sometimes people are sweaty, you know, if it's hot out, and I feel like I also get sweaty, and people probably hug me and then walk off saying like, oh, Anna Paul was so sweaty. So bloody blah, whatever. That was like a big chunk of her response video was focused on this claim that she was fatphobic for like half a second, and then most of the rest of that was spent being like, I do call people sweaty and that's fine, which like I guess it is fine. I don't know. The other bulk of her response was focused on the rumors that she didn't grow up as poor as she says she did, and this is something that we talked about in the previous episodes also. This is kind of like a little dark cloud, I guess, that has followed her around ever since she became famous. There's been people saying like, I know which neighborhood she grew up in, like it was not poor, you know, it was not a poor area. Is that illegal? Is it illegal to hop on the internet and say I was poor when actually you weren't? No. And also, conveniently for Anna Paul, I think, even the term poor is subjective, right? Because, I mean, you could be like, compared to like the Kardashians, everyone is poor. It's a bad term actually, because the vastness of what poor is and what it means to different people is just, you can't really quantify that in any way. And she leverages on this fact as well, because her whole thing is, you know, I do not lie about growing up broke. When I hear my parents say the budget for groceries this week is $30, that makes me feel broke. And this is kind of the like big chunk of her response that a lot of people pulled apart and discussed, because it's such a ridiculous statement in a way, I guess. It made me feel broke, but also it is quite different to a lot of her other videos where she's discussed about her upbringing, and she's very explicitly kind of said like, we didn't have a lot of money growing up. Atis and I grew up without access to money. Our parents were not financially well off. Those statements are all a lot harder hitting than now in this response, where she dials it all the way back to, it made me feel broke. You know, like, I'm not lying, because that is how I feel. That is my experience. And I guess this is just also why I kind of just wish people would stop saying stuff like I grew up poor and stuff like that, because it means different things to different people. But it is a rumor that has kind of been following her, because she has made this part of her brand. She's literally gone on news channels in Australia discussing how she went from, I think they said like from welfare to OnlyFans or something like that was the caption. And it was all about this like amazing story of a teen who like, you know, use this platform to turn her life around. And not to mention that the level of wealth that her and her family have now, I mean, anyone would feel like they were broke before that if this is their experience now. Like, they're going from flying first class, traveling all around the world, paying for everything all the time, hiring like really fancy luxury cars. Of course, you would look back at your childhood, and even if you were from like a normal, you know, working class income family, you would compare those two lifestyles and be like, yeah, fuck, we used to be really broke and now we're not, you know? So anyway, all of that to say, I think the whole like being broke and stuff is like super subjective, and I just don't think it's something that people should use on the internet to like garner sympathy. And to make it part of your brand as well is like kind of cooked to me, in all honesty. She also then goes on to dispel a lot of the internet sleuthing. So for example, people have found photos, you know, saying like, oh, this is the house that Anna and her family grew up in. It has a pool. It's along a waterfront. Like, it's a really nice house. And she kind of says like, these are the houses we lived in when I was older. But like, I'm talking about when I was 7 years old. I couldn't even imagine living in a house like that. And I will say, someone did do the legwork and found her mom's Facebook account, or maybe they were already friends with her, I don't know, and they did find photos that the mum had posted from Anna and Atis when they were maybe like 8 or 9 years old at one of Anna's birthday parties, and it was a pool party with all her friends in their pool at their house. So that's not quite right. But again, that's like neither here or there, whatever. She also goes on to provide context to some posts from her Instagram that people have been pulling up, old photos. For example, one that she posted when she was 13 of her sitting in first class, and she kind of explains explains like that photo got taken because Atis and I were flying economy to Germany on tickets that our uncle paid for so that we could see our family. And then she says like Atis threw up or something, and so the flight attendant, so they could go clean up all that shit, moved them to first class for like the last 30 minutes of the flight. And Anna, obviously, being a 13-year-old, of course you're going to post that. So she's basically saying like, you can't determine my life from photos, and also no one can diminish how I feel and how I felt growing up. It is true. Like, I don't disagree with the sentiment that you can fake a lot on social media, because we literally saw that when the US TikTok ban was coming out and all these creators were coming out admitting like, I don't actually eat ice, or I don't actually eat all the food that I post myself with, and even just things like that. It's so easy to fake an entire life on social media, and we know this, right? That's why shows like Catfish fucking exist, because you can be a completely different person on the internet. But it's, I don't know, I just wish she would never have made part of her personality and part of her brand being this like, I was so poor growing up type of person, because I do think it's backfired on her. I absolutely 100% do think that she is now like reaping the consequences of that. And of course, like the biggest driver for her wanting to be perceived as growing up poor is that we don't give them shit for being rich, like we do every other creator who like lavishly flaunts a luxurious lifestyle. We give her more grace in that department because she quote unquote deserves it for growing up poor, So that was majority of the chunk of her response was focused on the I didn't grow up poor claims. And then the last kind of 2 minutes-ish of her video is about, saying that online bullying is not okay. She gets quite like emotional during this part. She tears up a lot. She says, it kills people, and no one should ever say anything mean about someone else on the internet, because you just have no idea how that's going to be received. And she then even says like, if you're saying something mean in my defense, like I don't support that, I don't enable that, that is not okay. And she also says she's going to leave a support line for people to contact if they are being bullied online, because she feels so passionately, and like we need to stop with online bullying because it literally kills people. And again, I don't disagree with any of that. I will say she didn't leave the support line number down below like she said she would, but like I do agree with the sentiment. The things she's saying in her response video aren't necessarily untrue, but if we go back to Mikaela's original video and some of the more serious claims, I guess, like the illegal lottery and also about Atis especially, those things don't come up at all. And I get that the claims against Atis aren't about her, and some people are kind of like, well, why should she speak up on that? It's not about her. And I agree to an extent, but at the same time, Atis is her brother. She does live with him. And also, he is someone that she very often platforms on her accounts. She encourages people to follow him. And so from that aspect, I do think she has a responsibility to at least mention it, to a point of like, we are going to, get lawyers involved so to help Mikaela. Like, we do take her claims very seriously, and we want to go through the like legal route. That's all. I wasn't even expecting her to come out and say yes or no either way about Atis, because that's like a crime, and that needs to be handled in legal spaces. But just acknowledge it at least. Just say like, also, Mikaela, I'm so sorry to hear about your experiences with my brother. While I myself maybe haven't like bloody blah, we take these claims seriously, and we will be seeking legal action so that we can investigate this matter further. Something like that. But there was nothing. It was like all the bits that actually mattered, she didn't mention. And all the stuff that were somewhat trivial, like, again, it's not illegal to lie about being broke. It's like, it's also not illegal, unfortunately, to be fatphobic. And yes, that does make you a terrible person. And like, if someone is like that, they are someone that I absolutely do not want to support, and I do not want to surround myself with. But like, there were some serious accusations, and I just feel like the video, it did nothing. Like, it did nothing for those. Now, shortly after Anna posts this, Mikaela shares a screenshot on her Instagram, and it's basically showing that her comment that she's trying to post under Anna's response video is not posting. So clearly Anna has somehow like blocked her from being able to comment. But she basically says like she also thought her and Anna were friends, but that she found out recently from mutuals that Anna had been talking shit behind her back, and then, coupled with this illegal lottery thing and Anna exploiting her followers, this is what has prompted Mikaela to come forward. So she kind of gives a bit of reasoning or context behind why she switched up. And then she also says, don't make me come with receipts. On the 5th of Feb, Mikaela also posted on her Instagram story saying, I did promise receipts. While going through and actually collecting them and reviewing them, I realized something very, very sinister was happening to me for many years. This is something the police should be seeing, not the internet. So she's potentially going to take some legal action, and I do really, really, really hope that she follows through with that, because as we all know, statistically, an overwhelming amount of abuse never gets reported to authorities for, a bunch of reasons. I do commend her for potentially going the legal route. It's not an easy thing to do, and historically, unfortunately, survivors of abuse have had a really shit time when they've brought their claims to the legal system. But I do hope that she has a positive outcome, and hopefully, given her financial resources and stuff, she is able to maybe navigate that space with more protection, better lawyers, better, whatever. So we shall see if anything comes from that. Now, in Mikaela's video, she also alludes to the fact that there are other girls in their friend group who have also been hurt by the Paul family, and they also started speaking up. So let's go through some of the claims from other creators who have also been friends with Mikaela and Anna Paul at one point or another. So we'll start with Veruca Salt. We've already talked about her a little bit. She has supported Mikaela's claims that Atis is an abuser. In a statement she made after Mikaela posted her video, she said, Atis essayed 2 girls that we know of. And as far as I'm concerned, Anna knew her brother was a rapist after he assaulted Alice Patterson. Alice Patterson being the underage girl. We also discussed these claims in the previous episode. Veruca continues, she purposely set her rapist brother up with her friend for money. And that is, of course, about Mikaela Testa. Kind of corroborating the fact that Mikaela was being used by Atis and extension by the Paul family for her OnlyFans earnings. As we found out, Atis would take 50% of her money for being her manager, which is insane. Veruca also doubles down on her claims that Anna's dad Hans, is struggling financially or is potentially homeless. She said, she allowed the internet to rip me a new one while she sat in a room on a cruise ship screaming at her dad to tell her what he said to my son's babysitter, his partner. She was more than happy to sit in silence and let her fans bully me when I had pure intentions and told no lies only 1 month after my son's death. And I will say this is something that always really didn't sit right with me, regardless of whether the rumors that Veruca brought to light against Anna's dad were true or not. Veruca had very recently at the time lost her newborn son, which is so unbelievably tragic and something that I can't even imagine how that would feel going through. And while, she was grieving and working through all that, this drama with Anna Paul happened, and a bunch of Anna Paul's fans flooded Veruca's comment section and, as always, just weren't able to discuss the discourse in a level-headed manner. Instead started to say to Veruca, you deserved for your son to die. It was your fault that your son died. And really horrible, hateful, mean stuff that no one deserves to hear, especially not about a rumor, or about a bit of gossip that they dropped. Whether or not it was true, there is no way that she deserved to have those comments in her comment section. It was absolutely disgusting. And, for someone like Anna Paul, who apparently hates bullying so much, she had to rant about it, online bullying, for 2 minutes straight. She did not give 2 fucks when her fans were doing this to Veruca. She didn't post anything to say, hey, I understand that you're trying to defend me, but this is not the right way, or please, I am so disappointed in anyone who speaks ill of Veruca and her baby like this. Where was she, And this is something we've talked about so much on this podcast, about when a celebrity's fans kind of go AWOL and start making death threats against someone, etc., etc. And I'm of the opinion that as a celebrity or as an influencer with a big platform and a large following, you do have a responsibility when things get out of hand to this level where people are like, you're the reason your son died, or people are sending people death threats. I personally think you do have a responsibility to pipe up and be like, you know what, like everyone, like shut the fuck up, don't do that, that is absolutely horrific, that is something I don't stand for, and that is something that no true fan of mine would ever say to someone, you know, and just kind of stand down the soldiers. But considering she is, according to her response, incredibly passionate about online bullying, I will say she was silent silent when Veruca was copping some like seriously heavy vitriol online. Mikaela again corroborated Veruca's story about Anna Paul's dad. She commented on a TikTok post saying, I wasn't the person that gave Veruca the information. Originally it was Hans's partner, and I came to Anna's defense because I didn't want her to be mad at her father and treat him worse. So around the time when Veruca came out with all of these claims, a lot of people thought Mikaela was the one who told her this, you know, trying to like stir up shit with the Paul family again. But actually, here we find out it was Hans's partner at the time who was working as a babysitter for Veruca's baby as well. So that's some tea. And yeah, according to Veruca and Mikaela, Anna was like, they were on the phone to Anna and she was like screaming at her dad, trying to find out what exactly he had told his partner. Not a good look. I also saw a video where someone was like, Anna Paul gives me tantrum vibes, and like low key, I see it. Okay, another person from the friend group who came forward with stuff is Bailey Tallulah, another creator. Tallulah went on Snapchat and released a bunch of screenshots, messages between her and Mikaela, and also her and Anna, kind of showing like Anna isn't as like nice girl as she wants people to think she is. She had some screenshots. I think they were older, so like to give credit, they would have all been a lot younger, but you know, she does have messages of Anna like calling someone a bitch and stuff, which just kind of I think shows that there is a disconnect between who Anna Paul is and who she shows herself to be on the internet, which I think is kind of obvious anyway. Like we all deep down know that, right? Like we know deep down that she's not just this like happy lovey-dovey girly who goes through life always being 100% positive all the time. We have to know that that's not true. But there's one particular screenshot that absolutely twisted my stomach. It's from 2020. It's between her and Mikaela, so I'll just read out what each of their messages said. So it started with Mikaela, I need help. Bailey, with what, baby? Mikaela, Atis has just abused me and his blood is all over the walls. He stole my phone and laptop. Bailey, wait, what? What do I do? What's the address? Mikaela, I just found my phone but he doesn't know. Bailey, should I call cops? Mikaela, I'm going to get an Uber out of here. Bailey, should I tell his sister he abused you? And we have another Snapchat that Bailey sent to Mikaela, again from 2020. We can see the timestamps on Snapchat, and it says, I love you, baby. Please stay safe. I think you might have Stockholm's. I'm genuinely scared. I'm never going to see you again. That family is taking you over, and Atis clearly has problems with me and letting you see me. I get scared every day I don't hear from you anymore. I'm scared the next time I see you will be on TV for not good reasons because of that monster. Obviously, these messages are absolutely scary and terrifying. And it again kind of shows, because a lot of people are saying like, oh, Mikaela's making this up because she wants a bit of attention. But like, these are from 5 years ago. And I think also the fact that Bailey at the time chose to send this to Mikaela through Snapchat is so significant to me, because definitely when I've been in positions where I'm trying to reach a friend without their partner kind of like knowing what I'm saying, Snapchat is absolutely the platform where I do that, because obviously we know that people in abusive relationships often have their abuser going through their phone, going through their messages. They don't have any privacy. And so, yeah, just another thing that really stuck out to me. And Bailey also shared messages that were sent from Atis at around 10:41 p.m. And he's like trying to call her and asking her to answer because Mikaela is mad at him. And she also shows messages of Atis asking her boyfriend at the time whether Bailey and Mikaela still talk often, which kind of backs up that Atis was trying to kind of isolate Mikaela and stop this relationship between Mikaela and Bailey, which again, very common abuse tactic, right? To like isolate your victim, cut off their friendships, cut off access to people who might help them. All right, Lilith Cavalier, another creator, comes forward. She goes on Instagram Live to tell her story and then also follows it up with a TikTok video. She discusses her experience of kind of starting off being internet friends with Anna. She remembers that her and a bunch of other Australian creators, they kind of had this group chat and it was quite supportive, you know, trying to help one another out. This was back in 2019 when all of them had much smaller platforms, and they would give each other little advice or tips on, you know, content creation or just help drive up each other's engagement and things like that. And I think Lilith was also 19 at the time, so quite young. And she describes how one of the first times where she hung out in person with Anna and Atis, she kept feeling like Anna was trying to set her up with Atis. Like, she was just making a lot of comments. She kept telling her that she wants Lilith to be her sister. And this also sounds very similar to how Mikaela and, you know, backed up by Veruca, describe Anna trying like abnormally hard to set Mikaela up with her brother, who, like, you know, Mikaela and Anna were friends before Mikaela and Atis started dating. So again, this weird recurring behavior, I guess, where she's trying to get people to date her brother. And I think at best, you know, Anna, she grew up with just Atis as her brother in her household, at least. And, you know, maybe she was craving a bit of, you know, having a sister. Maybe the prospect of one of her good friends dating her brother like really excited her, because it's like, now we can hang out all the time as well. I don't know, I won't lie. This gave me Cruel Intentions vibes, if you know, you know. And I just don't know many people who like want their friends to date their brother. Lilith refuses. She said she had zero interest in Atis, so nothing came of that, I guess. They all go to a festival together, and along with some of the other people, you know, Chloe Caprice and Mikaela as well, obviously, and Anna and Atis. And she said she's still, you know, refusing Atis, and I think around this time his attention had started shifting to Mikaela anyway. I think this was kind of just before him and Mikaela first started dating. And after the festival, Lilith describes that suddenly none of the girls in that group chat would talk to her anymore. She would message in there, everyone would ignore her. She tried to reach out to the girls individually, they all ignored her. She was feeling pretty clueless, pretty isolated. She said she was just over-analyzing every interaction she had to see if there was like anything she could have possibly done. And then she said that Atis sent her a fucking message, and oh my gosh, it is so cunty. This is what it says. Just to make it clear and clear it up for you properly, the girls gave you a chance and let you into the friend group for 2 weeks. They feel you do not get along with them and that you do not suit being friends with them, and they would rather not be friends with you. That is so crazy. Like, imagine thinking you've made some friends and actually you're like on a probation period for joining the friend group. Like, what the fuck? This is, you know, it's like a job interview. It's so crazy. Lilith finds out later, years and years later, because for a long time she says she had no idea what happened to make them all feel that way, but she just respected it. She found out later that Anna had apparently told all the other girls that Lilith was talking shit, you know, about them behind their backs, which according to Lilith was not true. And then also told Mikaela that Lilith had a massive crush on Atis. And so of course Mikaela, who's just started dating Atis, is going to feel a little bit uneasy about that. So again, it's just kind of showing, this was in 2019 again, when they were all a lot younger. It's all very like high school bullying type vibes, but I think it shows more of like Anna's character according to some of these other girls who have had real life experiences with her, and just how different that is to the Anna we see online, who's always like, oh my gosh, I love everyone and everyone is my friend, blah blah blah. And I think it also again shows how like interlinked Anna and Atis truly are. Like, and this is again why I do think she had to speak up about the abuse claims against Atis in her response video, or why I think it should have been mentioned, because their lives are so enmeshed. But that's just my personal opinion. Now, Chloe Caprice, as far as I know, she hasn't like made her own video speaking about this or whatever, but she has been quite active on TikTok, commenting on a bunch of things. So on Mikaela's initial video, she commented, "I'm so proud of you. Witnessing you cry to me after visiting you and the house you lived at with the Pauls when you were terrified to leave from abuse broke me." And Jordan Henley, another creator, also commented on that video saying, "I remember you sitting me down and telling me all the things you had been through and witnessed. I remember you crying in our hotel about the countless things you had experienced. I love you so much, bub. You are so brave." So it really seems like the people who are actually in Mikaela and Anna's lives and, in their social circles knew that there was an abusive relationship between Mikaela and Atis and can corroborate that story. And Chloe Caprice has since also said on other TikTok videos, "Anna only wanted to be my friend when she had less followers than me on Insta. The minute she surpassed me, she wanted nothing to do with me." She also said, "Lilith is the sweetest. It makes me sad to think back about how she was left alone after everything. I wish I could have clearly seen Atis being a sneaky snake." So I think it's important to go through some of these other accounts because they do all match up with what Mikaela said in her original video, which, as I mentioned when we went through that in the last episode, she can sometimes be quite often an unreliable storyteller, particularly when it comes to the internet. And I think it does help kind of give weight when we've got some of these other girls saying, "In 2020, I was concerned about Mikaela and Atis's relationship," or like, "Mikaela came to me and was crying, way back then already." So yeah, really heavy stuff. I really just hope that we see some legal action taken against Atis, because that man sounds like a nasty piece of work. And although I don't think like Anna can go to prison for being a bully, I do just hope that it strips her mask back a bit and we can just be a little bit more clear minded when we watch her videos and just remember that this is a persona. Like, this is an internet character and not a real person. Now, although people were annoyed with Anna's response for leaving out some of those bigger claims or focusing on the more trivial claims, I guess, I do want to say I actually think this was a strategic move. And even though everyone's like, "Oh, she gave us nothing, her response was shit," but don't you think it did a good damn job at taking the heat off Atis? Because even though all the girls who were in their social circle are speaking quite vocally about Atis and about him potentially being an abuser, the rest of the internet is not talking about that at all. Like, most of the public discourse videos that I've seen have all been about Anna's response video, Anna and Mikaela. And Atis conveniently is coasting beneath everyone's attention. Some of the absolute worst claims that Mikaela made were about suffering emotional and physical abuse from Atis Paul, and what's the internet doing? Popping its pussy to the "It made me feel broke" remix.
It makes me feel broke. When we can't afford school uniforms, it makes me feel broke. When I'm 11, when I'm 10, it makes me feel broke. I do not lie about the fact that I grew up broke. When I say I grew up broke, that is my experience, that is how I felt. Feel broke, because I called pasta noodles. Feel broke. Feel broke. I do not lie because I called pasta.
It is really catchy, but also it seems wrong to kind of focus on this. I mean, you know what? I saw Jetstar Australia used the "It Made Me Feel Broke" remix on their account as well. This is now what everyone is focusing on. And I don't know, I did kind of have this dark thought where I was like, did she really put this out knowing it would take the attention away from Atis? And honestly, I think the answer could be yes, because she had to have known that coming forward to dispel the rumors that she grew up broke by saying "I felt broke" was not going to be received well. She had to have known that saying "I'll leave a support number for online bullying below" and then not doing that would spark up some discourse. And also she did her response video wearing a jumper by the brand By Bambi, who have very recently been cancelled for stealing designs from small creators, kind of like a White Fox boutique moment. Anna's not dumb, you know, like she is on the internet. She's been on the internet for years and years and years. I don't know, call me conspiratorial. I know I do sway that way a little bit sometimes, but like I truly think that she actually made this terrible response video knowing that people would shift their discourse to her and calling her out for everything but leave Atis out of it, which is exactly what's happened. Like, most public discourse doesn't even mention Atis. Most comment sections don't mention Atis. I've tried to make this episode more focused on the claims about him, but like when I tell you that this is like 1% of the overall conversation, because most people are hell-bent on tearing Anna down. And we've talked about this often on this podcast, but it is so disappointing when someone comes forward and speaks out about really serious allegations of abuse, and then it so easily gets overshadowed or overpowered by something really trivial. You know, Amber Heard versus the my dog got stung by a bee, Blake Lively versus the Khaleesi text, and now we've got Mikaela's claims being overshadowed by the "It Made Me Feel Broke" song. Like, it's dark. It's like, it's seriously, it's so much easier to do than it should be. And this is also kind of a bit the issue that I had with the way Mikaela made her video, and I understand she wanted it to be like a tell-all expose, but it just meant that all of her serious claims just got buried beneath other stuff, and it gave Anna the chance to only cherry pick which parts of that she was going to talk about in her response. And so I guess, and I'm about to contribute to the same issue, but I have tried to like focus this more around Atis being an abuser and Anna potentially being an enabler to that abuse. But I guess to quickly just run through some other shit that has come to light amongst this. Apparently Anna does unfortunately mistreat her pets. This is something else that people have kind of murmured about in the background, particularly around the birds she owns. A lot of mistreatment there. Someone commented that their partner actually did the like insulation at the Paul's house, and he saw this one room which was just full of bird cages and birds in them, and Mikaela commented on that saying, "Can confirm this is true." There's been a lot of discourse around the timeline with Anna and her new boyfriend Emmerich, with people saying that the timeline overlaps with Glenn, like she must have cheated on Glenn with Emmerich. And I do kind of think this because the weirdest thing is going through Anna's old vlogs from like 2022, 2023 and seeing Emmerich in them, and like her and Glenn hanging out with Emmerich and his friends together. It does always make me feel weird when people break up and then someone starts dating like a close friend that was friends with both of them, you know? Like, it is kind of sus vibes to me. And the other thing that's kind of been unearthed from all this is Anna and Atis's half-sister Sarah Paul, who they share on their dad's side, so they all have the same dad but different mums. And Sarah Paul has talked about basically growing up fatherless and how this has impacted her because she wasn't allowed to see Anna and Atis's dad growing up. And Mikaela commented on her video, My Shayla, and then also said, their mother is a horrible, nasty woman that robbed Sarah of a father. So yeah, holy crap. The good news, I guess, is that a lot of people have been unfollowing Anna Paul and following Sarah Paul. So there we go. She's getting a lot of traction now. And she has said that she will maybe one day like share her full story, but she kind of just wants to like sit on it and really think about it because she doesn't want to unnecessarily start beef with her family. But yeah, wild, like absolutely wild. So yeah, like I said, there's been a lot of noise on the internet. It's crazy how little people are calling for Atis's head, because really that is where we need to be focusing a lot of this attention. All right, final thoughts. Where is Mikaela's podcast? You might have seen I posted on my story. She said she was going to do a podcast and talk all about the drama. She did say this after she said she was seeking legal action, so I don't know if she's gonna like separate the stuff she's taken to the police from other stuff. But that was meant to come out this week, which is also why this episode is coming out so late, because I was kind of waiting for it, thinking that I wanted to cover everything all at once. And where is it? Where's the podcast, Mikaela? Now I know how you guys feel when I don't release on time. It is very annoying. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to do that separately. I'll see if that, ever comes out. If it does, maybe it'll just be, I'll do like a little reaction video to it rather than a full-blown episode, because I think I have spoken at length now about the Paul family, and I do definitely need a break. But final thoughts, I do kind of hope Anna Paul gets knocked down a couple pegs, and I don't want Atis to get cancelled. I want him to go to jail. I think we need to put more heat and attention on that, and I do really, really, really hope that Mikaela is seeking legal action against that man, because God damn it, he gives me the grossest vibes. But that is all that I have for this week's episode. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast if you enjoy the show, and feel free to leave a written review. I love my words of affirmation, and you can follow me on socials at Mood for Feud. I hope everyone is crushing their goals this week, and of course, keeping out of trouble. Don't get into any feuds, and I will talk to you all later. Bye!